It is time for the February 27, 2023 meeting of the Westport Commission on Disability. Sorry that we got a little bit later start. I am Brian Gallagher, the chairman of the commission. We have two other members, so there are three of us in person, and Ray Phoenix is on the telephone with us. And he's the only one who's going to be participating remotely. The last time that we met was, I think, October. We did not meet because of the holidays in November or December, and then of course last month that we had some weather issues. So we have not been together for a while. I did send the minutes around from our last meeting, and I hope that everybody got them and had the opportunity to read them. It was a while ago, I admit, and I apologize for that.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good, those minutes are approved. The next thing I wanted to talk about is I did prepare and send the 2022 annual report of the Westport Commission on Disability, and that went to the town government. I sent that a while ago, maybe over a month ago. But in it, I spoke about the contributions that we made, our commission made in 2022. I just wanted to take a moment and sort of highlight those. We are moving forward with the geogrids for Beach Avenue, which we have already purchased, but we have submitted the order of conditions to the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, together with a filing fee of $106. So that project has been put off until the spring, and Martin, one of our members, Martin Costa, has spoken to Chris Gonzalez, the head of the highway department here in town. Chris has said that it is on his list of things to do. He hopes to get to it very early in the season, and we will notify Chris Capone of the Conservation Commission just before we start that project. The other donation that our commission made was we donated $5,000 to the town recreation department to be used for activities and programs that assist disabled people. That contribution has been made, and we hope that perhaps we can make that an ongoing thing year to year, since there is a need in our recreation department. We also have agreed, not yet spent, the $5,000 for the renovation of the Hitch Bridge landing. And from what I understand, that project is actually moving forward, slowly but surely, the way government projects do. And eventually we'll get to the point where our consultant, Mr. Bull, who's with us tonight, this afternoon, will tell me that it's time for us to make that contribution. We have the money in our account, and we are ready, willing, and able to make the contribution of $5,000 when we get that call. I also understand that there might be a need for further money, and we might be asked to make a larger contribution. It's something we'll discuss when and if the time comes. Recently, and I say recently within the past month or so, we received a request from the Westport Elementary School, Ms. Teresa Pacheco, who's the health and wellness teacher at the school. She was looking for assistance in purchasing a piece of equipment it's made by a company called Flag House, and it's used by youngsters in school with disabilities. It helps them to work through some of the programs that the school offers for them. We asked, and when I say we, I don't mean the royal we, but as a commission, we asked if if one's good, would two be even better? And she said that'd be great. So we have contributed money and the tune of $1,550 to purchase two of those pieces of equipment. I have spoken to our town accountant. She has, and if probably already has, prepared that check. Kim Lazandra, who's also on our commission, was going to pick that up and make sure it got into the hands of Teresa Pacheco, so that equipment could be purchased. So that's some of the things that we did in 2022. We are always looking for ways to spend the money that comes to us. The money that we get comes primarily these days from the people who park illegally in handicap parking spots. They don't have a handicap plate or handicap placard in the car. The fine is relatively substantial, and it usually during the summertime when people are trying to park at one of the nice beaches here in town, and the parking spaces are at a premium, so they will just say, well, it might be worth it for me to incur the fine so I can spend the day at the beach. So that money comes to our commission, and we try to find ways to use it to help people in town who have disabilities. The other thing I wanted to mention was the geogrids at Beach Avenue. As I said, we are ready to proceed with that. We have done all that we are supposed to do in terms of we got consensus that that would be, I think, a good idea to get the geogrids to stabilize the handicap parking spots on Beach Avenue. We have purchased those. They were delivered initially to Martin's house, but now they're being stored at the highway department. As I said earlier, Chris Gonzalez, superintendent of the highway department, has said that he is ready to go on that project. So hopefully in time for the soon to be upon us beach season, those geogrids will be in place. We have gone to the town planning board, we've gotten approval, we've done everything we need to do, so we're just waiting to report to the town, or the people who pay attention to this commission, that the geogrids have been installed. Sometimes it's difficult to get up and down Beach Avenue because of the blowing sand, but the town highway department does make an effort to keep the road clear on a regular basis.
Are they, the highway department, aware of the deadline that needs to be done by before?
Yeah.
The roads come back?
Martin has had ongoing discussions with Chris about that. And assuming that the work gets done in the spring, we'll be well within that period, the time period. Forwarded to us. Sean Leach of the Beach.
Brian, Jeff, Henry.
While you're on, if I could just speak to
Yeah.
that for a moment, while you're on Beach Ave, I was down there recently, and there is a lot of sand that didn't used to be in the handicap parking area. So that has blown in from recent storms, such that where the blue Moby mats have gone in the past, they will no longer go. Because there are big rocks, not stones, huge rocks that underground are like this. The sand has washed away. So the path that you and I wheeled down before,
Right.
it is now a canyon.
Wow.
So you could not, unless you take some of that sand that's in the handicap parking places, it needs to go back on the beach anyhow, because that's where it came from.
Right.
If they were to fill that canyon, then the Moby mats could extend, so they'll actually be pretty useful. So it would be wise for someone, because I know Chris Gonzalez is staggeringly understaffed, so he may not be aware
To get
that
down
in
there.
addition to, and the potholes on Beach Ave
Mhm.
are beyond potholes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
fall in, yeah.
There's a lot of vehicles, I mean, I have a Subaru, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I can get through here.
Mm.
So it's sorely in need of regrading, and so there may be, I don't know if there'll need to be additional filings with conservation or not, because in the past, when they've moved sand back onto the beach from the roadway, there's been some public opposition, and, but particularly in order to extend the Moby mats, that's
Yeah.
kind of where the sand needs to go, and which means it's gotta go a little bit further than just throwing it over the fence, because if you just throw it over the fence, that
Yeah.
will mean that as you come from the parking lot, you're climbing
And that,
a hill,
Mhm.
and that would just be silly.
Mhm.
And it just makes it harder for anybody to get through.
Yeah, and it's
But
gonna be
on the
tough to
other
get
hand-
equipment through there without moving the fence, without driving over.
Yeah, I
Vegetation.
think they have ways of doing it. That maybe some of the fence is removable, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really more of a railing than a fence, but it,
Right, it's a
It's-
guardrail.
yeah, it's gonna require a little bit of planning that he may not know about.
I know Martin's got a pretty good connection with
Mhm.
Chris Gonzalez, so.
Right,
That'd
and
be-
and I'll talk to Martin and he can talk to Chris. I will also reach out to Ross Moran because the Landing Commission has been very helpful to us in getting those Moby mats put down because some of the land
The,
is owned by
the beach committee.
get
Yeah,
Sean
trust.
involved in the loop
Right.
with the Beach Committee, but it's also been the Westport Land Conservation.
Oh, yeah, them, right.
Yeah.
I thought you said landing commission. but
No,
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
yeah,
Ross will probably need to be involved,
yes.
but he seems in great support.
Yeah, well, every time that we've ever reached out, he's been very, very helpful, so I will reach out to him and make sure that he's aware, and we'll make sure that Sean Leach of the Beach Committee and Chris are also aware, see what we can do to make sure that those mobility mats are down, because it's one thing to have a stabilized parking area with Jim, whereas if you can't go anywhere.
Great to
Yeah,
know, yeah,
yeah.
right.
So I will make a note to make sure that,
It's like a handicap entry to an office building with no elevator.
Right.
I will reach out to Martin and Ross Moran and see if Martin can touch base with both Chris Gonzalez and Sean Leach on the Beach Committee. The next thing that I wanted to talk about today is CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is considering funding by Medicare for power seat elevation equipment in power wheelchairs. Right now, Medicare does not pay for the elevation equipment. When I got my power chair a year or two ago, I think it's 2 years now, it was made clear to me that Medicare doesn't pay for it. So I wanted that elevation equipment, and so I paid extra for it. Now, I'm in a position to be able to do that because I've been very fortunate in life, but not everybody can. And it's an expensive addition. Now, Medicare is in a position where they might pay for it. There was a 30-day period where comments were being made. So I prepared a letter on our letterhead, sent it off to CMS, and I told them that we are very much in support of making that funding available. Whether or not that happens, I don't know, but as I said, it's a great addition, because if you're in a wheelchair, trying to get to an upper shelf in a cabinet or in a refrigerator is very difficult, if not impossible. And also, the elevation equipment allows you, if you're in a group of people, to raise up so that you are eye level with them, and you don't feel like everybody's looking down at you all the time. So I tried to make that point in the letter I sent. Hopefully, it will, they will get enough comments in support that they will make that happen for everybody who wants to buy a power chair with elevation equipment. I think.
I receive CMS updates almost daily, so I'll just keep an eye on that. I know the deadline, I think, is March 17th on that, so hopefully they'll act on it within the next 90 days after the forum closes, so hopefully.
Great, and if you hear something one way or the other, just
Oh,
let
yeah,
us
I'll
know.
let everybody know. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Would it be useful for the general public to send in letters of support for this?
Sure. I think the more you can inform CMS that it's important to you and to everybody for equality and to just make it available for people, I think the more pressure that they get, the more they may.
Might it be possible on this video for everyone watching at home? And
Sure.
people do watch this at home. For Val to put some instructions on how to do that or on your website?
Yeah, we can post it on our website as well, so.
Yeah,
If
Mhm.
there's a,
I just think that
Yep.
typically more letters is better, and if Val can somehow put a sign on the end of this or stick it in somehow, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I tried sending an email to cms.gov, and it came back saying that address was not recognized. So then I went online and looked for addresses for CMS, and I got one in Baltimore. There are several regional offices around, but CMS is actually located in Maryland. So I picked the one that, the address that was in Maryland, even though it wasn't in Woodlawn, I think it is, but it was hopefully close enough that we'll get there. But yeah, we should make that address or addresses, make those addresses available so that people who have an interest can send letters. And if anybody is able to find a good email address other than cms.gov, please let us know so that we can start sending emails too. Thank you. That's a good point.
Yeah, actually, I have one right here. So for, well, this one's immediate inquiries. Yeah, cms.gov/inquiries is just what the one's coming. That's who sends me my CMS updates.
So we can try cms.gov/.
/inquiries.
And is there a case number for the legislation or the regulation or something?
Let me see if I have something.
You call them elevation?
That was last week, Brian.
Yes. Yeah, it's power elevation
Yeah.
equipment.
Powered elevation equipment?
Yeah, for power wheelchairs.
Email right now. See how this works. See if it bounces back.
and if it's not readily available, you want to send it over, I can just make sure it's on our website as well.
I don't see a designation number. 30-day comment. Yeah, I don't see any specific number to it. just yet.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing one when I was preparing.
See elevation systems as an accessory to power chairs, group 3. Oh, actually, I do have it right here. C is in cat, A is in apple, G is in goat, 00461, N is in Nancy.
This is telling me that cms.gov/inquiries is not
Oh. Mhm.
a valid email address.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't spell inquiries right. Sorry.
Okay.
And that number again, Sue,
No,
it's
they don't like that one either.
CA6 or G?
CAG.
Okay, but can't read my own writing.
Yeah, CAG.
Is that uppercase or lowercase?
All upper. CAG-00461N.
Capital N?
Capital N is in Nancy, yep.
Okay.
No, not going?
Well, it's weird because they, on their website, that's what they say they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I had a problem, and then I had to look and find an actual snail mail address for them. There are several centers around the country, and I've just picked the one in Maryland. Maybe while Sue's continuing to look, the next thing I had on the agenda, that the Massachusetts Office on Disability, otherwise known as MOD, has a quarterly gathering. They called it a quarterly tea, where they get people together either in person or via Zoom to talk about disability-related issues. I could not sign up for it because I had a pre-existing appointment. Martin said he would. Unfortunately, Martin can't be with us today, so I'll carry that one forward to our next meeting. And maybe by then, we can hear from Martin about that and see if anything came out of it. The next item on the agenda is, I received a communication from the planning board here in town about a development in town called Stone Ridge, a private community. I'm not sure where in town it is, but we'd asked the planning board to make sure that our commission was aware of any new developments so that we could review it for disability issues. It's a community of about 30 private homes. I think the plan was prepared before we appeared before the planning board and before the planning board changed the rule and regulation pertaining to sidewalks in town. It's now, if you have 5 houses in a development, you have to have a sidewalk. It used to be if you had 20 houses. This community, as I said, has 30. I saw what I thought may be a sidewalk around the outer perimeter, but there are another 10 houses located on the intersection of the development, and I saw nothing in there that even remotely looked like a sidewalk. In looking at the legend, and I tried to blow it up as much as possible, I saw nothing that said sidewalk in any of the legends. But if you look closely at the plan, it kind of looked like there may have been a sidewalk included. So I returned the proposal to the planning board saying, we approve of it with comments, and the comments being, where there is a sidewalk, we want to make sure there are curb cuts so that someone can go along the whole distance of the sidewalk without having to go into the street. And I also said that with respect to those 10 houses on the inner portion of the development, we want to make sure that there is a sidewalk and that there are curb cuts in that sidewalk as well. Because if you're in a wheelchair and you encounter a curb, you can't get up and over it. You have to go out into the street.
Mm.
And that was one of the points that we made to the planning board, which is, I think, one of the reasons why they changed the regulation. So we'll see what happens with that, if it was taken into account, if our comments were taken into account. Because it does make a difference if you're in a wheelchair or if you have to use some other assistive device, be it a walker, be it crutches, canes, to get around. You don't want to go out in the street.
Yeah.
You know, it can be unnerving. The next item is, does anybody have any thoughts or concerns? If Martin was here, I would say insults that you want to hurl at this point.
I just wanted to point something out that as a South Coast employee, we have opportunities to, it's called Coffee with the CEO. So we have opportunities to send in questions and then meet in small groups with our CEO. And I did put in to meet with him in March and was going to bring up to him what I heard at this meeting the last time we met about the inability for people in chairs to be transferred to a plinth at their primary cares, which was pretty disturbing to me. So I do plan to bring that up. So I will let you know how I make out, whether they get to my question or not, I don't know. I don't know how many questions he will entertain. I don't know how many people go to each of the coffee set times, but I'll let you know the next time we meet.
Thank you. Who is the new CEO?
It's still, Dr. Kruger is still the acting CEO.
Okay.
They are in a national search right now to replace him. He was an acting CEO after our last one left, and he came in on a temporary basis, so.
Okay. Well, that'd be great if you meet and see if there's anything that they have to offer.
Yeah, I bet he has no idea.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea when you guys brought it up. I had no clue
Yeah.
that was happening. So I would tend to think he has no idea as well.
Every time I go to my doctor's office, I say, "Can you get on the scale?" It's like, "No."
Yeah.
Can you get up on the examining table?
Yeah.
No.
And the scale is one thing that is concerning. To me, that you can't do skin checks on somebody who sits primarily most of their day is unacceptable.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I will plan on bringing that up to him.
Well, thank you. And I'm very fortunate in that I have a local caregiver who checks every day, a visiting nurse who comes in once a month.
Right.
But you're right. If you go to the
Not
doctor's
everybody
office,
does, right?
and if they can't do it, and not everybody has the same
Yeah.
access that I have.
Mhm.
And as you said, someone like me, you're on your butt 24 hours a day,
Mhm.
either sitting or in your bed.
Mhm.
And I had one of my former partners whose first wife, or second wife, had MS, and she ended up in a facility and they didn't check. And she ended up getting sepsis and she died.
Yeah, the cubidize are not a joke. I mean, it's a really dangerous thing that can happen with people that primarily sit. So
Yeah.
it's something that, as a caregiver, you need to be aware of, you need to be checking. And if you can't have somebody transfer to lie on their side to take a look, you have no clue. So
Right.
you're relying on somebody else who may or may not be knowledgeable, may or may not be educated enough to know what to look for, that it's, you know, it's just a red mark, he just gets that because he sits too long.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not, you know, that may be a start of something. So I will definitely bring that up to Dr.
Well,
Goodman.
thank you. I'd be curious to see what his response is.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything they want to? Our next meeting is,
Oh, I could give you a quick update.
okay.
Sorry, I was doing.
No, no,
wheelchairs. I
that's
found
okay.
something about it, but. Work is happening in 2 areas relative to this commission. I've submitted a plan to reorganize and, well, to organize the parking at Westport Point Landing. It has been a dirt parking lot. It is becoming a paved parking lot, and we are pushing to, at minimum, put wheel stops so that people will know where to park. The original handicap parking plan there included 2 spaces, one directly next to each other, which seems to be the engineering standard. And one is van accessible with that little stripy thing next to it, and then one is not.
Mm.
And that seems to be the way they did it, that's the way they did it for the head of Westport. And we thought, and spoke with this commission many years ago, that we wanted handicapped people to have access to the river and the handicap picnic bench, not just the watershed building.
Mhm.
So we separated the handicap spots and put the wheelchair accessible, well, I guess they're both wheelchair accessible now, and separated them, so the one's over by the river and the other one's by the building. Similarly, we expect to do the same thing at Westport Point, so that a wheelchair person doesn't have to completely cross the parking lot to get over to the wharfs, should they want to go to one of the music events down there, or buy fish off a boat, or be a handicapped fishing person that
Mhm.
works on a commercial boat, maybe, I don't know. So we've separated them in our plan, and we are doing our best to get the parking organized there, so there'll be more parking for people, because it's sort of chaotic down
Yeah.
there in the summertime.
How many
We don't know
spots?
Where to park.
Excuse me, how many spots total will there be down there once the lot is paved?
I don't know, 15, something like that.
Of course, to your point, the last time I was down there, it's kind of chaos. People just park wherever they want to, because there are no designated spots.
Can't tell.
Right.
Yeah, it's a
I've
free-for-all.
parked in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell. So, we're working on that.
Good.
Additionally, at the head of Westport, you had a Eagle Scout come here wanting to do something for
Mhm.
you, and we've been in touch with him, and he is proceeding with his plan with us to put a railing, a metal railing down the ramp, the pavers ramp, because the pavers get slippery, and all kinds of people are falling, plus any person over the age of 20, including handicapped people and the elderly, has difficulty getting their bodies up out of a kayak
Mhm.
to a standing position. So the hope is that they can slide their boats in along that railing and then reach up and grab the railing and sort of pull themselves up and out of the boat, and likewise lower themselves into the boat. I have been in touch with your member Martin, and I'm gonna arrange a time with him to meet him there, because the watershed on their handicap ramp has a similar railing.
Hmm.
So I'm probably gonna borrow one of your plastic kayaks, meet him there, and have Martin do pull-ups in and out of a kayak to see if that design works.
Great.
That sounds
Is he gonna
good.
do a single rail or a double rail,
It'll
John?
be
Do you know?
double.
Double rail?
It'll be
Awesome.
doubled so that when people are walking, they have
Perfect.
something to hang on to.
Yeah, because the other one needs to be lower.
Yeah, and just exactly where it needs to be.
Perfect.
I'm just curious about what works for people. And so
Oh, right,
I'm gonna test it out on Martin and myself.
perfect. And just to mention, if people have not been to the spot at the head, it's a lovely spot to go and just sit, look at the water. It has the wheelchair accessible picnic table.
Mhm.
So when my wife and I went up there, we were able to sit and look at the water and just.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah,
Similarly, we are working on getting a similar park picnic bench installed on the west side of the river at Hicks Bridge, that green spot.
Yes.
And it'll always
Oh,
just be
okay.
lawn, but,
Yeah.
so you might need help rolling over it, but
Yep.
that will be handicapped, wheelchair accessible at one end, sort of.
Great.
And it's another great spot for the public to enjoy that the town has been mowing for the last 50 years, but nobody's been using.
Yeah. It's almost, it appears as if it's attached to the neighbor, but it's
Mhm.
really town.
And the
Property.
neighbor, for your information, rents land from the landing commission.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, yeah, signage.
great.
how much
Great.
land is actually there, Jeff?
Land?
Yeah, it's a lovely little spot, but it's a little spot.
Yeah, there's probably, if you were to tour through the whole thing, I bet you it's, well, where the public will have access is probably, if you were actually to measure all of it, maybe half an acre.
Okay,
But then there's another half an acre that's part of the landing that a house sits on, and that family rents that land from the landing commission.
now,
With that money, we will buy a picnic bench.
am I right that there's no water access in the sense that you can't pull a boat up to there, and particularly if you're handicapped, get down?
The water is very shallow there, particularly at low tide. It is maybe 2 inches deep.
Yep,
So it's not a great landing spot anyhow. And you're way up above the water, and it's what's called a riprap going down to the water. So you would need to be at least a medium-skilled rock climber to successfully climb down and climb up there. So I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
but if there's a table there, it would be a lovely spot to go and sit and have a picnic lunch.
Yes. Yep.
Great.
And maybe if you were good at casting, except no, probably I'm not a fisherman, but no, it wouldn't be good because then the hook would get caught on the rocks.
Yeah, and the water's not that deep there, even at high tide.
I'm not a fisherman, so I cannot speak to that.
Yeah, but it's a good place to go and sit and,
It would just, we're taking care of it. It belongs to us, the town.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to use it.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Great.
Will there be designated parking spots there along the road?
There will be, yeah, that's my next thing, is to get the town safety officer and the board of selectmen to allow us to park cars there,
Okay,
because it's no parking right now. It's not great as a parking place, because you've got cars zipping across the bridge,
Yeah.
and there is slightly challenged visibility, but it's safer than the parking places in front of this building. When you back out, it would be parallel parking, and there would be a handicap spot at the far west end of it. And it will likely be that you have to have a permit for the Hicks Bridge landing, which is pretty inexpensive to use that parking.
okay,
So
Because otherwise, the people on the bridge that fish will just park there instead of,
it's difficult enough for the Westport police to manage the Westport people who fish there, and so there's resistance to making it easier for people from out of town to fish.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, you'll have to get a permit, I think.
And as you said, it's not very expensive to get that permit.
Not very expensive is a relative term, depending on what people have for nickels and dimes and stuff, so.
Last time I did that, so it was several years ago now, I mean, probably 6 or 7, but it was through the selectman's office, and I think it was $10. It's probably gone up to 15
It's more
or
than
20.
that now. $10 doesn't even cover the cost of someone handling the
Yeah.
paperwork, so the town is getting a little more sophisticated about covering its expenses, given what trouble the town is in
That's good.
financially.
Okay,
Okay.
well, great, thank you. Our next meeting is March 27, 2023, at 3:45, and we will be in this room in the annex. It changes based upon the meeting schedule for the Board of Health, but we will be here next month.
Sounds good.
And now can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.